Senator Renner is recognized today.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. You know, I think our comments are going to be obviously to the package as a whole. We're kind of a bit confused here in terms of what's coming and what's going. And I think that obviously we need to talk about this as a total solution and the total bills that are going to be before us maybe in one way or another today. You know, the fact is that this is an end run around what the people of California have clearly stated. Clearly, the Californians made a decision a few weeks ago in regards to the fact that they said, we're taxed enough. We don't want to write any more checks. We want our California legislators to help solve the problem. And so, I know we've struggled with the idea of raising taxes here as a way to solve that problem. But in one sense, this, where you go ahead and not only end run around the voters of last month, but you do an end run around the state constitution at the same time, knowing that there's no chance for this plan to succeed, is very disingenuous and is actually not helping as that clock continues to tick. Let me just walk through what it is that you have put on the table. First of all, a tax increase for every Californian. Any Californian who has any kind of withholding done is going to pay more money out of their weekly paycheck. That's what's going to happen with this proposal. As a result of that, every Californian has less money to spend as they go through their daily requirements. In addition to that, you've added a whole other group of people, and that is those individuals who are self-employed contractors. And you tax them regardless as to whether or not they even have a California tax liability. You know, there's a proper place and a way for that to be done. And you ignore that and instead go ahead and assume that everybody owes the state of California. And then when they don't, well, then you'll just give the money back to them afterwards. But every one of them has less money to spend for their needs and their family. In addition to that, you create a bigger problem with the structural deficit. You took focus, for instance, on a tobacco tax. Every one of us knows by our own experience here that that is a declining revenue source. That each year, less and less money comes into the state as a result of tobacco tax. So what do? You go ahead and try to balance a budget with it. On top of that, you go ahead and continue state spending, knowing that it only creates out-year pressures for new taxes on Californians. The other issue you do is you add new tax to Californians for every Californian at the pump when they go to fill up their tank. The fact is, you may think that this extraction tax is one paid by corporations, but I got news for you. It gets passed on. And every Californian who goes to fill up at the tank, at the pump, will pay the additional dollars. Now, what that also means is jobs lost for California, because there'll be a shift of workers out of California, out of that industry, to other places. Now, the interesting issue is that may not only just be to other states. You know, I wrote a piece the other day called the Hugo Chavez Empowerment Act. Because what you do is you do shift oil producers in other countries an advantage over California pumping. Now, I don't think that that's good for California economy, and I don't believe it's very good for Californians in general. The other issue that you do in here is, as you look at how it is that this is balanced, is that you go ahead and you continue to do what we have talked about time and time again, and that is a list of dangerous felons that get released into neighborhoods. Now again, balanced carefully, unfortunately, with the idea of additional money against proven programs that local law enforcement uses to keep their community safe. More felons, less law enforcement. Doesn't sound like a formula I need for my neighborhoods. Now the other issue that I think that we deal with here is that we continue to experiment with this plan. There's no doubt in my mind, and I think in many of the rest of us, at least on this side of the aisle, that this continues to drive California into a longer, deeper recession. I know you have great concerns about many of the social programs that you're focusing in on here. But the fact is, in order for those programs to move forward successfully into the future at any amount, it depends on a vital California economy. Without that, everything in California is at risk. I find it interesting that there is an issue of bipartisanship here. Only it's not bipartisan in support of these bills. There's actually bipartisan support against these bills. I watched the votes over in the Assembly. I noticed that not even all the Democrats could vote for these bills. Now, I would assume that probably the same is on this floor. I assume there'll probably be some Democrats that can't vote for this package. So I guess in a sense, I'm asking you to join us in a bipartisan effort to defeat this very bad plan. Vote no.